Well, the writ hasn't dropped, but the gloves are already off in the provincial election campaign. Today, Premier Kathleen Wynne took a moment out of a news conference at Sunnybrook Hospital to call out PC leader Doug Ford for comments she says are bullying. At a campaign stop in Brockville yesterday, Ford said he would call an outside audit on the Wynne government spending, saying, quote, if Kathleen Wynne tried to pull these kinds of shady tricks in private life, then there would be a few more Liberals joining David Livingstone in jail. Livingstone was Dalton McGuinty's chief of staff, and he was found guilty of deleting files on the cancellation of natural gas plants. Today, Wynne echoing comparisons between Ford's comments and those of Donald Trump during the U.S. election when he called for Hillary Clinton to be locked up.
I want people to notice what's going on here. Doug Ford stands for nothing other than Doug Ford. And just like Donald Trump, there is only one way to deal with this kind of behavior. You have to stand up to him, and you have to name the behavior for what it is, because that is how you deal with a bully.
The PC's firing back today, with MPP Lisa MacLeod tweeting to Wynne that she's pushing the Ford-Trump narrative for her own reasons, writing, quote, you are running against another candidate in another country because your record is so bad in Ontario. We can't let that happen again. Meanwhile, Ford himself was in Cobourg promising to revive the town's manufacturing industry by cutting corporate tax rates. And we'll talk more about Wynne playing the Trump card a little bit later with the political analyst John Wright.
Let's just call this for what it is, out for what it is. Doug Ford sounds like Donald Trump, and that's because he is like Donald Trump. He believes in ugly, vicious, a brand of politics that traffics in smears. That's how Trump campaigned in 2016. And that's how Ford is campaigning right now. And I guarantee you that it will get worse before it gets better.
Well, you just heard Premier Kathleen Wynne playing the Trump card today, accusing PC leader Doug Ford of being just like U.S. President Donald Trump. But will it stick? Will it matter to voters? We welcome now John Wright, who is the president and CEO of DART Insight and Communications. Thank you for joining us today.
Great to be here, Cynthia.
What do you make of this tactic? It's turned into a battle of words, and she's certainly trying to paint Doug Ford with a Donald Trump persona.
Yeah, and this is not something that was thought out overnight. I mean, this is something they've carefully planned. And if you look at how the Liberals have laid this out, they said, we're going to prorogue the House. We're going to have a throne speech that puts our plan for the election right there and a budget, so they're not spending any money on it. We're going to make all kinds of announcements, and then we're going to go after him in the next part of it, and then the writ will drop, and we'll get into that with our paid campaign. So this shouldn't surprise anybody. But what's fascinating is the question is, who's it aimed at? Because if you're not aiming it at Doug Ford's people, which haven't changed in the vote really at all. Like, he's sitting around 40%. I think she's aiming it at NDP voters. She's doing almost exactly what she did the last time in the final days of the campaign, where she's saying, you know what, go with us. And what's happened over the last month is that while Ford's numbers haven't moved, the Liberal numbers have, at the expense of the NDP. They're up now about 28% or so. So that's minority territory if he comes down a little bit. But I think that's kind of where she's at. And it's, if you want to stop this guy, come to us. We're as NDP as you could be.
So she's basically saying strategic voting. Come on, NDP, come to me or else.
Absolutely.
And if she was able to garner some NDP votes, does she have a chance?
I don't think at a majority at the moment. I mean, everybody's going to hedge and say, a week in politics is a lifetime. But the reality is that she has a lot of personal baggage that she's carrying. Only 1 in 5 voters out there in the entire province think she's good at what she does personally. And we haven't seen anything from Doug Ford. That's the other fascinating part about this, shadowboxing. I mean, he's got a bit of a rope-a-dope going on where he's up against the ropes, he's got his hands up there, and he's got no platform, no costed platform. And all he basically has said is, listen, I can't put a platform out there because I don't know what the real numbers are. We even have the Auditor General who, says that she can't understand what the numbers are, so why should we take for granted what they are saying? So it's now playing into his base on the economic front, and she's playing him to the NDP.
I wonder if he has to put out a costed platform, or if he is so strong and she is so disliked that he would be okay.
He may not. He may be able to get away without a costed platform, but I suspect he's going to come out with 5 principles. In fact, if I was a campaign, that's what I would say. Respect taxpayers' taxpayers' money, you know, blah, 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 do all of that sort of stuff. But I think he will sow enough words amongst the people who support him, which right now are about 40 to 44% of the population, that they don't want anything, they don't need anything. I mean, Cynthia, half the public out there doesn't like Doug Ford. Right. Half the public doesn't like anything the PC stand for, but they're almost equally split between the Liberals and the NDP. So the game on right now is, if you drop the undecided out, it's for Kathleen Wynne to get NDP voters on side. And that's going to be more than anything that we see, not so much an eroding of his base, but more for her.
And I just, like, in seconds, I need to ask you about Moody's. Bad news for the Wynne government. They're basically raising alarm bells. Yeah,
they are raising alarm bells, but Mr. and Mrs. Front Porch, they won't even know what that is. It will matter in the election for pundits who want to talk about debt and interest payments, but not much more for people who are just sitting outside here downtown.
John Wright, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Cynthia.
And that is it from us for now.